about user experience. UX is a field that's gained incredible ground and become a staple in modern companies, and it's really essential to these well-designed products that we see and use today. But really, we should be talking more about human experience, because we're not designing for users, we're designing for people, and we're designing to support those complexities of that human experience. And humans are complex. We have emotions, we have thoughts, perceptions, we have expectations, we have actions, abilities, and disabilities. And our designs, they must consider all of these complexities in order to provide value and help people reach their goals. So UX as a practice is mostly focused on the design of specific moments, usually digital, such as the experience of a website or a form or an app or a kiosk. And in order to create these incredible user experiences, we often see design teams and individuals positioned in organizations around these specific moments, or we might call them unique products. So for example, you might have a design team that works on the mobile app experience, a design team that works on marketing materials, a design team that works on the web, but these traditional areas of design, digital interfaces, usually of some kind or another, are only just a slice of the interactions that our customers are having with our company or our organization. So the full end-to-end experience that people are having with our services, it encompasses everything from marketing to billing to customer support to in-person consultation and self-service help. These experiences, they're outside the traditional realm of what we would think of as user experience. But if you add them together, they really contribute to that end-to-end that we keep hearing about and talking about in service design. So when these diverse touch points are out of alignment, they're uncoordinated, maybe there's disjointed handoffs, we end up with a bad, jagged service experience. And that's not what we want. We want a smooth, more holistically designed experience where all the components that support it are aligned to better meet those needs of our customers. So what if we had the tools, the authority, the access to design the architecture of this end-to-end experience? What if we went beyond the traditional realm of user experience design and applied design to all areas of the business? This work, the end-to-end and surface-to-core design of experiences, is what we look at when we're doing service design. But making this leap from user experience design to service design is not easy. It's not easy for us as designers because the skills and the tools don't translate directly. And it's not easy for organizations that we work with because we need different kinds of access to the organization and different levels of authority and ability to work more strategically. So why should we be considering evolving our design practice from UX to service design? Well, some stats. Services are everywhere. So roughly 80% of the GDP is accounted for by services today. We see that every product-based organization is thinking about transforming into service-based organizations. So if you think about like the Amazon Dash button, for example, where they've turned a simple product order into an ongoing service relationship. Or think about Adobe. I mean, I'm sure lots of you use Creative Cloud now. Think about their transition over the last 5 years from this one-time software purchase to Creative Cloud, which is really this ecosystem of services that support collaboration and designers' success. This is a service transformation. These aren't products anymore, they're services. So with more innovative services hitting our daily lives, we end up having what we call fluid expectations, meaning we expect the same quality of service from our dry cleaning as we do from our banking experience. So why can't the post office be more like my experience with Instacart? Or why can't my medical provider have the same on-demand service like Uber does? These fluid expectations mean that customers are raising the bar for design and for the experiences that they want across all industries, and your industry is now competing with all industries for a good experience. So because of this, we have an opportunity as designers to have a greater impact, to design beyond the screen and extend the relevancy of design into new areas of the business. So I'm going to lay some foundation. So let's jump in here. The websites, apps, forms, and interfaces that UX designers are usually responsible for, we call these touch points. And they're touch points in a larger service experience. So think for a moment about your internet service provider. Their website is just one point of interaction that you have with them. There are many other interactions that you have over the course of contracting with them, such as the billing statement you get, or a customer service conversation, or a help article, or maybe a field technician coming in to do an installation at your house, or if you have to return equipment to their service center. Even every web page you read and every video you watched that is served up through their internet service. So this is all part of their service delivery. And these interactions, they take place in many different channels. Channels are the medium in which touchpoints take place. Think web, mobile, phone, paper, in-person. This is just a helpful way to distinguish what we call omni-channel design. And all of these interactions are touch points that over time form a relationship that you have with the service. So thinking about that internet service provider, of all the years or months you've been contracting with them, what are all those experiences you've had with specific touch points that has formed your relationship and your opinion of your service provider? So designing services means designing to support that relationship. And this means you have to understand and design for all the components of the business that contribute to the experiences that your customers are having. So how do we start understanding these components? Let's dig a little deeper. At the surface level, the customer experience occurs in what we refer to as the front stage. This is anything that is visible to the customer, whether it's a website or a conversation with support staff. It can be interactions with systems or objects or people or places. It's comprised of the actions that the customer is taking and the interactions they are having with the service. As we go deeper, we find all the things that go on behind the scenes, like people, systems, policies, processes, practices. This is what we call the backstage. These are the things that are invisible to the customer, but they impact the experience that the customer is having with the service. And this is where service design differs the most from user experience design, in that we have to consider all of these backstage parts of the business in order to design what the customer sees in their relationship over time. This line of visibility between the front stage and the backstage, between what is visible and invisible to the customer, is a key concept in service design. And it lets us do more than just surface level work. It lets us go deeper into the core of the business and how it all contributes to the journey that our customers are taking. And these journeys, they happen over time. So customers, they go through distinct relationships with the service, and we need a way to talk about what's going on in the front and backstage, and also how our customers are moving through the service over time. So their needs are changing during different phases of the service experience. And this movement occurs through what we call the service experience lifecycle. All service experiences follow this same pattern, believe it or not. There's before, beginning, during, and after the service experience. And you can get a lot more detailed. I have a blog post where I go into breaking it down into even more fine components. But this is basically the gist of every service experience, end to end, of the relationship that a customer has with the service. At each phase, we can look what our customers' needs are and how we can best support those needs. So before a customer decides to use the service, they need information to help them make their decision. So how can we better support them in that decision? Once they decide to use the service, they need to get off to a good start. So how do we set them up for success? And when experiencing the service, our customers need to have their expectations met. How can we best meet their expectations and show that we've delivered what we promised? And lastly, at the end of the relationship, the customer needs to officially end the contract. How can we best provide clear and easy closure for the customer and leave them with a good impression? By designing these clear service principles to guide your organization at each phase, we can help create a more smooth and satisfying end-to-end customer experience. So we've talked about touch points, channels, visibility, life cycle. All these elements make up the foundation of service design as a practice. They're the core concepts that you got to wrap your head around if you're going to move from UX or whatever your current work is today towards really embracing a service design mindset and approach. But what does that practice actually look like? What does it actually mean to be doing service design? We want to look at what our toolkit is. What capabilities do we need to develop? How do our organizations need to evolve to be ready for this kind of work to succeed? These are all really important questions as you're making this transition to service design. So the first thing you have to think about is shifting your mindset from the responsibility of the touch point to the responsibility of the end-to-end experience and all the components that contribute to that experience. Whether or not you're actually the owner of all those components, you still have to embrace the responsibility of working end to end. So this is a key shift you need to make in your mindset as you approach your work. And this end-to-end experience, it requires that you design across traditional silos in your business. Think about marketing, product, customer support, billing. All of these come into play throughout the service lifecycle. This means some really big differences in what it looks like to be doing design if you're designing across all of these business silos. So to illustrate some of these concepts, we're going to ground ourselves in an imaginary company. Pocket Cakes delivers specialty cupcakes from a delightful mobile app. It's like having a cupcake in your pocket. Let's look at an example customer experience for Pocket Cakes. All right. So I'm going to tell you a little story here. Joe wants to surprise his friend by ordering her a cupcake on her birthday and delivering it to her at her work. He uses a mobile app to place the order and customize it and schedules it to arrive just before lunchtime when he knows that she's going to be there. In 20 minutes, Joe gets a notification that his cupcake is out for delivery. Jane gets a surprise at her office. It's a cupcake and it's from Joe. Joe gets a notification that the cupcake has been delivered, and Jane uses the app to send Joe a thank you selfie. Joe and Jane both can rate their order through the app, and in his email, Joe gets a coupon for his next order, including cupcake offers and specials and ideas for when a cupcake might be the perfect gift. Okay, so let's break this cupcake scenario down from a service design perspective. There are several key touch points that happen in the front stage of this experience. The mobile app, the cupcake box, the text message, the cupcake itself, the email, and they happen in different channels. They happen in an app, they happen in person, they happen via text, they happen via taste, and they happen in email. So these touch points live in these different channels. Now, Pocket Cakes as a company has designers that design the mobile app. They have designers who create the packaging and the apparel. They have content strategists who work on messaging and notifications. And they have designers who work on the marketing team to create communications. But as service designers, we need to look at the end-to-end surface to core of the service, not just the touch points. Beyond touch points, we also have actors present in the front stage of this scenario. Since this is a gift-giving scenario, we have more than one end user or customer. We have the receiver and the giver, and we have the delivery person who fulfills the order. If we map these actors across the end-to-end experience, we see the steps that make up this particular scenario and where each of these actors comes into play. This and the touch points at each of these steps comprise the front stage of the experience. But it's only the surface level. We need to understand that backstage and how the service is being delivered. So when we include the backstage, we start to see how the company is delivering its service experience. We see at the place order step that there's a lot going on behind the scenes. There are technical systems processing the order, people baking the cupcakes and packaging them, sorting them for delivery. There are policies that enforce the zones in which deliveries can happen, and there are processes that ensure efficiency and optimization in order fulfillment, and best practices that guide the work. That's just that one step. And you can see how if something breaks down in the backstage of that step, it might greatly affect the service experience of the end users. It's our job as service designers to help show the evidence of the intangible parts of this experience in order to see and understand how all the component parts are interconnected in service delivery. So evidencing is the act of creating visual or tangible artifacts that express the intangible parts of the experience. And you can create evidence by leading service blueprinting projects to map the front and backstage, bringing subject matter experts together from across silos of the business to understand how the service is being delivered and visualize it. This role that evidencing plays in what we do as service designers is a big part of our work. So let's look at some other aspects of what it means to be doing service design. Another role we play is that of investigation. Now, we can map out what we believe is happening in our pocket cake scenario, but it's important to investigate to understand what's really happening and the reality of those experiences that we're creating. Do we really know what's happening at each step? Do we really understand the journeys our customers are going through or the experiences of our frontline staff? Or are we going to go off of assumptions? Assumptions are a designer's, what do you call that? Like antithesis, or we're always up against assumptions in everything we do. So how do we go and test those assumptions? So there's a number of ways to investigate and better understand these service experiences. One of our biggest tools we have at our disposal is interviewing, user interviewing. By interviewing our customers and staff, we can better map those journeys that they're having with the service. So by mapping the journeys that our actual customers and staff are having, we can identify true high points and points of pain. And this can open up opportunities for service improvement ideas or new service innovations. And it lets you it lets you and your colleagues think about how changes to the service might improve everybody's experience, not just the end customer, but also the frontline staff and the backstage staff. Now, sometimes service metrics might prompt an investigation of an already identified pain point. So, for example, if we think the Pocket Cakes reporting team might have identified a trend that shows a higher percentage of dissatisfied orders at a particular time of day, what is going on? Why would customer satisfaction be going down based on what time it was? So this calls for investigation to uncover that root cause. By interviewing customers and staff and looking at our metrics and blueprinting out our service delivery process, we can uncover the root cause of that problem and discover that maybe it's just we're not staffed to support lunchtime orders. This investigation of systemic issues with the service is an important part of doing service design, and it requires us to lean on both qualitative and quantitative measures to understand the reality of what's going on with our services. So what do we do once we've diagnosed a problem or a pain point or a service breakdown? Another role we play is that of facilitating remediation. This is helping put in place the tactical and strategic improvements that will resolve customer or staff pain. So how do we facilitate this pain remediation? To do this, as I've said, we have to bridge the silos of the business to understand that complete picture of the reality of the service delivery. Often different parts of the business are isolated and they're operating under different assumptions, they have different goals, and different understanding of how they contribute to the end customer's experience. So by looking together at this end-to-end, we can reveal how our organization is delivering on that experience from the customer's perspective. If you get representatives from each part of your business that are involved in that particular scenario you want to look at, and you blueprint the scenario, you can create that shared understanding of the root cause of customer or staff pain. With this shared understanding of our end-to-end and surface to core, together you can come up with solutions that are both tactical fixes that you can just go do or put in your backlogs right away, but also strategic changes that might impact your service roadmaps. So this process of service blueprinting can help facilitate pain remediation and bring together cross-functional groups to correctly diagnose and fix problems with your services. And it's a unique role that service designers can play in our work. So throughout all of this, there's a superpower that comes into play over and over, and that is storytelling. And no, I don't mean bedtime stories, though I tell those every day to my son, but I mean stories that can drive your business, stories about your customers, or about your staff, or about successes or failures, stories about the past, stories about the future and what it can hold. Storytelling is a powerful tool we have at our disposal as designers, and it's critical to service design as a practice. Through storytelling, we help our companies have more empathy, more understanding of our customers and their experiences. And through storytelling, we can turn big data into meaningful insights. We can also frame challenges, present problems, and inspire action. Storytelling is a way in which we communicate and make sense of the complexity of our services. And it's a key way for us to help envision the future. So back to Pocket Cakes. Pocket Cakes has a big vision. They want to make giving cupcakes even easier than sending a happy birthday card online. To make that special moment of surprise, laughter, joy, and pleasure happen for all occasions. To make cupcakes the new ritual of thanks, congratulations, or sympathy. But how can Pocket Cakes realize their big vision? And how can service design help? It can be as simple as facilitating a reimagining of key moments or scenarios. Take, for example, surprise birthday cupcakes, like what we saw with Joe and Jane. This is one of Pocket Cake's most important scenarios and their biggest source of income. So beyond simply the surprise and joy of receiving a cupcake out of nowhere on your birthday, what else can Pocket Cakes do to add delight to the experience and make it just a little more special to drive loyalty, repeat orders, or attract new customers? As service designers, we can lead generative, co-creative sessions where we inspire our teams and even involve our customers in these sessions to think more creatively and come up with these exciting new ideas to elevate our customers' experience. We can storyboard imaginary new experiences. We can simulate them through role play and play acting. We can even do future state blueprinting. We could do rapid brainstorming and testing and iterating on these ideas and designing new service experiences. This is truly like one of the funnest parts of being a service designer, is really getting teams to think outside the box and helping play out some of these ideas and test them with customers. So for example, what if the wrapper around the package that holds the cupcake in place slipped off and became a silly birthday crown? Through this problem reframing and generative workshops and co-creating of new service concepts, we can help Pocket Cakes or our organizations innovate on their service offerings. We can pose creative challenges using a how might we statement, like how might we make a cupcake for a sad occasion, or how might we make cupcakes more like greeting cards? These activities help teams think outside the box and help them consider new points of view and new contexts through which they're going to innovate on their services. So by helping create these visions of the future, we can facilitate that strategic thinking needed to evolve the business. But what good is a vision without organizational alignment? Alignment is what turns good ideas into actionable ideas. And this is where I believe service design truly becomes design leadership. To facilitate alignment, you need to clearly communicate the vision of the service. You need to partner with leadership and management. You need to create tools that help staff put these service principles or these improvements or new ideas into action. And these tools, they could take many forms, like workshops, service interaction style guides, maybe method or persona cards, metrics or assessment criteria, whatever format and content best fits your organization's culture and capability. You can create tools that help people move in the right direction. Aligning is hard work, and you've got to help people understand disparate points of view, and you have to appeal to other people's motivations and get everyone on the same page. So whether that's creating a shared understanding through blueprinting or leading with a vision of the future, Alignment is really key to success in service design projects. These are 6 core components of service design in practice and what it looks like to be doing service design. And there's a toolkit that supports this work. The toolkit consists of many tools and methods that might already be familiar to you. But the difference is in how they are applied and at what level of zoom and in what context. So, for example, prototyping is still the same concept of testing your ideas, but with services, you might be prototyping with cardboard, duct tape, live action role playing, some sort of theater performance instead of HTML because you're trying to prototype a relationship over time. And how do you do that? So this idea of taking our toolkit that we might be more familiar with from design and scaling it up to these service level challenges is really the trick. We've talked about building our skills and our capabilities and kind of what service design looks like, but let's talk about what you need to develop and grow inside of yourself to be doing good service design work. First, we need empathy to understand and relate to our customers, but also our colleagues. We also need good communication skills to convey our ideas, to build trust and build relationships across our organization. We need to be good facilitators to enable others to collaborate and co-create in workshop settings or otherwise. We need to think on a systems level to understand all the moving parts of the service. And we also need to be synthesizers, boiling down that complexity into simpler and clear insight for our organization. We have to help paint the picture of the future, and we have to tell the story of what it could be. We also need to visualize those intangible aspects of services so that we can spark dialogue. And we need to make things. We need to make prototypes, artifacts, and tools for our organizations. And most of all, we need to be leaders. We need to lead our organizations into the future, help them evolve, and help them grow. So much of this is what you already carry with you if you're doing design work. It's part of what we bring to the table. It's what makes us who we are as designers. But growing in this capability to support service design is really important. So, are you ready to make the leap? Even if you're ready and excited about the prospect of doing service design, your organization might not be set up to support this work. There are some things that you need to make it possible, ingredients for success that if they're missing, as I've learned the hard way, makes this work a lot more challenging. First thing, you need access to all parts of the organization, parts of the business that we might not have access to as designers or never have worked with before. You need this access if you're going to do end-to-end design for the customer. So this might mean that you need to position yourself more centrally in your organization, outside of a traditional design silo, and have more of a horizontal function. Our organizations need to make space for this work to happen. This might mean creating a new role, team, or office. And like any good thing, you need resources. In addition to access, you need other people's time. This means you have to make sure your service design effort is prioritized and supported by leadership. The best way to get access and resources is by finding a sponsor. Whether that's a sponsor to support a particular project or someone who's interested in your development, look for leadership who are excited by what you have to offer, or if the opportunities are a good match, and don't be afraid to share your vision and ask for what you need. But you have to be prepared to talk about the outcomes of the work and the value it's going to bring to the table. Another ingredient of success is data. Without information about what your customers are experiencing, you will be flying blind. So find out what data is available in your organization and get friendly with the folks who manage and analyze that data. If you discover there are huge holes in your data, work with your organization, see if there are opportunities to establish new listening posts and start to form a more complete picture of your customer experience. And lastly, what is the design maturity of your organization? Ask yourself, what role does design play in my organization's process? Is design just relevant in terms of style, or does it play a key role in the strategy of your organization? So by understanding this design maturity of where you work, it can help inform your approach at introducing service design concepts to your colleagues. So these are the key factors you need to consider beyond yourself and your own capability, but your organization's capability, and making space for that service design work to happen. I'm not going to lie to you, this work doesn't happen fast. Change can't take place overnight. But don't lose hope. If you want to, you can make the leap. There's no one way to be a service designer, but I challenge you to consider how your design practice or your work could scale up and go beyond the touch point to the service experience. So if this excites you, I encourage you to dive in. Read the books, the blogs, the videos, get exposure. A lot of what you saw in this talk today was inspired by a great book by LiveWork called Service Design for Business. They should be kicking me back some sort of affiliate code, but they're not. This book is great. I tell everyone to get this book. Even just read the first half of the book, you'll get a lot of these basic concepts. And also find your community. And I don't just mean the practical service design community, because that's great, but also your community at work of people who can be mentors, allies, advocates, or disciples. And they're going to support you in making this leap in your organization. But we also want you to join the global community of practice in Slack at Practical Service Design. Having a support network and learning from other people who've been there before is key to making this transition to service design. And find a place to start. Start small. Look for opportunities, those perfect partners, sore thumb projects where you can jump in and start testing out some service design approaches. Don't boil the ocean. Find one project and start small. And tell the story of your work and what you're doing and what the future can hold. All right, that's the end. I'm here to take questions. We have, I think, 20 minutes left. And I wanted to save a big chunk of time to talk about any questions that you have, and Eric's been collecting them in Slack. Great.
Wow, that was amazing. I have chills. Wow, incredible. Great job, Megan.
Thanks.
So we got a lot of questions that
Awesome.
came in. I'm going to kind of go through, keep asking as many as I can between now and the next 19 minutes, and we'll see how you do.
Okay, I'm ready.
So
hit me.
Time for the hot seat. And if you've got a hot question, put the fire emoji in front of it in Slack, and I'll make sure to get to that especially. Okay, so let's open it up to this question from Nadret. What would you say the difference between experience design and service design is?
Sure. Personally, I think user experience and experience design have associations with touchpoint design. I think when companies are thinking about experience design, they're thinking about a touchpoint. They're thinking about an app or a website. Maybe some companies have evolved their definition of this, but as a whole, I think the industry really thinks of experience design as simultaneous or similar to UX design and on that touchpoint level. And so the primary difference, as I said in the talk, is that with service design, we're actually not necessarily designing touchpoints. We're designing kind of the orchestration of how these things work together, maybe even providing consultation on the design and direction of these touchpoints, but not necessarily doing that hands-on work. I have built my team of my service design team at Stanford to have capability both from a service design perspective, and I have 2 people on my team who've never done any touchpoint design at all. But they make great service designers and they're doing amazing work. And I have another person on my team that's got that deeper experience in UX and interface and information architecture design. And I really believe we need that full stack of design capability to be looking at the bigger strategic picture and that end-to-end and working on the orchestration and how these things work, but also on that specific touch point. So hope that answers the question.
Good, I like it. So let's go to another one from Tomas. How do you explain to a business owner how service design and a service designer role is different from their business developer role?
That's a great question. So when I first started working as a service designer in my organization, we have tons of what we call business analysts. And I was actually categorized as a business analyst. So and several of my service designers, actually, I have categorized them in the HR classification as business analysts, because that, to me, more accurately reflects some of the angle of the work that they're doing. And the difference is that service design takes a human-centered design methodology as a toolkit and applies it to things like requirements gathering or service strategy or the designing of services, which, by the way, in ITIL, in ITSM, if you've ever heard of IT Service Management, ITIL library of processes, there is a whole component called service design. It is not what we know as service design from a human-centered design approach. It is very different. But I really, truly believe these things can be married together, and that we actually form really good partners with business analysts and people playing that role. So our team at Stanford, we actually sit side by side with a service development team, and that just got kind of renamed. We came up with those two names because we really believe that there's a service design team doing this human-centered work and a service development team working with business analysts and with these requirements gatherers to kind of implement and help put some of these things into practice with service managers and owners throughout our organization. So when I talk to a business owner about what we do, I say we bring that human-centered design toolkit, we bring an expertise in user experience and understanding user needs and requirements through doing user research. We bring that awareness of all the design kind of methodologies and those skills to the table. Very different skills than what you would have from a business analyst, and that we can complement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great. Can you add just a little bit to that about how it's different from maybe a product manager?
Oh yeah, a product manager. So typically a product manager is kind of owning the direction of a product in a company, and I absolutely think service design should be a skill set in a product manager's skill set. Is a product manager going to go out and conduct a 3-week user research project and synthesize all of that findings and lead service blueprinting sessions? I don't know. If I was a product manager, I would hire a service designer to sit right underneath me and run a team and work on that. So I kind of feel like product managers are at this very high level providing leadership and also managing all of the development, all the design, everything. They're managing like this big product. So a product manager themselves can't get into the weeds of the experience and synthesizing those end-to-end service to core elements. I really would love to see more product managers hiring service designers to be their kind of right-hand man or woman to help them work on strategy and stay connected to their customers.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay, let's keep moving. We got a lot of questions
here.
Oh my gosh. Great stuff. Let's stay with the spirit of the show.
Sure.
Okay, let's get a little more practical.
Okay, let's get practical.
So Bente, I'm sorry if I mispronounced names. Sorry. Bente is asking. They have completed a front stage user experience in end-to-end and have started to blueprint. If they want to continue blueprinting but don't know where to start, what would you say to do?
Yeah. So you've probably heard this from us if you follow us on anything, but we do have an ebook guide to practical service blueprinting. We have templates. We've really tried to make blueprinting something accessible to everybody because we really believe that anyone who's interested can learn how to run a blueprinting session. It really doesn't, you don't have to have a designer background. So I would suggest definitely downloading those templates and watching some of the videos and other things that Eric and I have put out there to get a sense of blueprinting and what it is. But really you want to expose your stakeholders, so getting that set of stakeholders and subject matter experts from across whatever scenario you're looking at into the same room at the same time and expose them to this process to help them see the kind of alignment they can get, the way that the ideas and the identifying the what we call critical moments, thank you. Like, what are those things called? Critical moments of each of those steps in your service experience, identifying those and how the blueprinting process can really help you rapidly come up with quick improvements to your service, both tactical things and also those longer term ideas for strategy. So I think I would just say try to go use the resources that are out there. Get in the blueprinting channel in Slack. We are in there all the time. A bunch of people are in there all the time. Hundreds and hundreds of people have been using the same blueprinting template and tool now around the world. So there's tons of people working with this tool. So get in there, ask questions, find a support network, share what you're working on. That's the only way to really get help, because if you don't ask, no one's going to help, right? So Put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to ask what you might think of as a dumb question. There are no dumb questions. So.
Okay, so let's take the
Mm.
taking the leap angle. Let's look at that for a minute, and I'm going to combine two questions from George and Laura
Okay.
into kind of one. So, how does one sell themselves as a service designer, especially as a career changer, and how do you convince job recruiters of the importance of service design rather than just user experience?
This is like where the tears start crying. If you hopefully you've read my blog post called "Hey Job Seekers, We Need to Talk." If not, read that. But let me summarize. So service design hasn't made its way, particularly into U.S. and tech markets, as we would hope. Even companies that we think of as really truly embracing a service design mindset don't have any people called service designers necessarily on their staff, and might not even know what service design is. And we know this because we've talked to them. It boggles my mind, but there's a lot of opportunity to pave the way. So there are a couple tactics that I would suggest. If you think the service designer word is not working for you, the title is not working for you in your job hunt, call yourself an experienced designer. I know I just said it was different, but that's okay. You want to get footing, and you want to try to talk about that end to end. You want to also ask really smart questions of the companies that you're interviewing at, to ask them, how do you look at your service end to end? What kind of strategy, what kind of tactics do you use to stay in touch with your customers? What are your data listening posts? If I become your senior experience designer, what access will I have to parts of the organization that I'm not in that particular silo? Like push hard on the things I just talked about in my talk, and see if you can evolve a role into service design. So you might be getting a job that's called experience designer or product designer or whatnot, but see if you can evolve that role over time, and see if the companies or your manager or whoever seems willing. So when I was seeking out this change, I basically went on a campaign around my organization. I talked to everyone. I talked about what service design can do. I talked about how we need it. I talked about what it's going to give us. I had examples. I had done a project rapidly on one of our services to show kind of a proof of concept. And eventually I was talking to the right people, and they got it. And I was lucky that they kind of got it. They got it enough to give me a chance. And then I spent the first year in my role, proving that this kind of work can be valuable. And that's when I got my team. So it's taken me 3 years to really make this transition really in my company, where I have all these relationships and I've worked there for 10 plus years. I mean, this is, it's hard work. So hang in there, I guess. Work with what you got. Start small. Try to transform your current role into service design. Try to find those allies and people in the organization that you're either trying to work at or where you're working now, and see if they can help you in making that transition. But we need to be leaders because of this, because there aren't going to be these service design jobs out there at too many companies yet. There just aren't. We try to collect them all in our job board and in the newsletter and in Slack, but there just aren't. It just hasn't, the tipping point hasn't happened yet, and we can help make that tipping point happen if we start putting ourselves out there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we're getting close to noon. We might keep answering questions a little bit past if we have to. If you have to go, that's okay. So let's here's one I think that takes a little bit different angle about making a leap. Katie asks, I'm a customer care manager. And I informally do a lot of service design work, like you described. How do you think customer service fits into this service design mindset?
I actually think customer service groups that handle customer care are probably the hotbed for where service design is going to take root in a lot of organizations, because you have the data, you know what the problems are, you see the end-to-end, unlike some of the other silos. So I think that's actually a really cool place to look for getting a foothold if you're trying to do service design work. And what was it? How do you think customer service fits into the service design mindset? Yeah, I think you have to have a customer service attitude to be a service designer, because you're constantly thinking about how different parts of your business are delivering quality customer service. One of the things my team's been working on is developing a quality service training for frontline staff for our organization, because we've never had that before on a consistent level. So working to instill those quality service principles in our work and embracing that customer service mindset. So yeah, I mean, you're in a good spot to really be doing that service design work, and partnering with your organization to start bringing those cross-functional teams together to work on key problems if you're not already doing that.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's a tough one.
Okay.
The remediation of these service design issues and kind of these root cause problems that happen, it seems very dependent on organizational maturity, asks Emily. And also an organization's willingness to look at themselves.
Yes.
Are there any tips on guiding potentially hesitant stakeholders to this willingness to look at themselves honestly?
Yeah, this is a big one, because it's really hard for a lot of organizations, and even within organizations, there are always going to be people who aren't ready to hear the truth. So we talk about, in design, and especially in user research, we talk a lot about exposing our stakeholders to customers, whether that's videos or transcripts or audio, or having them observe interviews. So in the projects that I run, usually we're working with a core project team that are our partners, and we're doing user research, and we always open up observational or note-taking jobs for everyone on the team. And we usually get a few people volunteering to just sit in and see how it's done. We try to directly involve, and that's that co-creative mindset as a service designer. How do you take your stakeholders and just expose them to your process, to the end user, and create a safe environment for everyone to share their thoughts? So that's one angle. I think the other thing is start small. Maybe don't go after the like big fish to fry problem. Go after something that's really small that you could do in a day or a week, and try to expose them to some of the methods with small wins first. And I know that that's like a buzzword and whatever, but it's really true, and it's one of my big regrets for how I first started out in my job. It took me months to line up a first project. Nobody knew what I was trying to offer, and now we're just overloaded with work. It's crazy. Like the project pipeline has turned crazy because I've lined up some projects. It was this chicken and the egg problem. So like sometimes you got to just expose a little bit at a time, find something small, and always have that mindset of co-creation, involving your stakeholders, involving your end user, and showing how it ties to business outcomes, whether that's more increased efficiency on the back end, or whether that's higher ratings or higher however you measure your business outcomes. Show how what you're trying to do directly relates to those outcomes, and help them see those connections, because they aren't going to get them automatically. You have to paint that picture really, really obviously for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to ask one more. Let's say Alistair has a question about, imagine that there's a mature design and research organization within a company.
Yeah.
And they're already doing journey mapping, they're already doing experience mapping themselves. How would you go about introducing service design practice to them, and how is it going to be different?
Yeah. A lot of it isn't different. I think it's kind of the naming. And the thing is, like, you don't have to call it service design. You can call it whatever you want. Some organizations, that term doesn't work. My organization, I was lucky, it worked really well. It hooked into something that people grabbed onto. As far as helping a really mature design organization adopt this, I would say it's really shifting that mindset to the end-to-end or the holistic, and helping your designers think that they have permission to design in places that they didn't think they did. That's, I think, probably one of the bigger challenges, because in those big organizations, your design is siloed, and you would never think to partner with the billing team on designing their billing order, or maybe you do. I mean, if you do, that's fantastic, but think about those places, those maybe kind of blind spots of your design team, and how do you get them to feel empowered? And that might also mean setting up relationship building events with other teams. This may be more of a leadership challenge than it is a design challenge at this point, which is helping your design team become holistic, become end-to-end, have access to the organization. And that, as a leader, it's your job to maybe build those relationships so that you can open up opportunities for your designers to stretch beyond whatever touch points they're focused on, and make space for them to do that. Because if they're just heads down all the time designing UI and pixel pushing and we're doing user testing or user research, like in a whole, make space for them to come back up and look at that horizontal view.
All right. And there's always one last question we ask our guests on when Eric's hosting the PSD Live webinar series. What would you say your go-to karaoke song?
Oh no, we're not doing that today. Did you tweet that? I've been singing Heart alone today. I'm not going to sing it for you.
Here we go.
Don't make me sing. It's good, huh?
Let's do it. Well, that was just great, Megan. I really want to thank you for being on the show
Made me
today.
all red now. Thanks.
I want to encourage everyone who watched to. I'm going to put this link in the Slack right now. Follow our channel on YouTube. Make sure and follow us on Twitter.
Got a bunch of places to follow.
Follow us on Medium.
But join the Slack.
Join the Slack if you're not in it already. And this is kind of our first official announcement. We're going to try to make this live webinar series a regular event with different guests than just us.
Monthly, hopefully.
So feel free to give us suggestions, requests on topics, and we're also going to try and be populating our YouTube channel with recorded content, stuff much shorter, 2, 3, 4, 5-minute videos as a way to help distribute service design content and information in ways that, it isn't being done as much. So be sure to keep watching for PSD TV and PSD Live. Thanks for attending.
Thank you. It was really fun and good questions.
A lot of fun. Great questions.
You can hit me up in Slack. We'll keep talking.
Yeah, at Eric and at Megan. I mean, obviously, y'all already know that. Yeah, in Slack. And you're probably already on the newsletter, so you can hear about when the next events are happening, and we hope to see you there.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
And this was mostly recorded.
Oops.
So we'll see y'all next time.
All right. Bye.
Bye.